Have you ever noticed that in the loudest moments of your life, your heart whispers the most profound truths? We live in a world that glorifies noise, notifications, conversations, comparisons, endless movement. But tell me, my friends, when was the last time you truly heard yourself? Not your thoughts racing, not your worries shouting, but the voice deep within that speaks only when the mind is still. Once, I sat beside a calm lake early in the morning. The world was asleep. No phones, no rush, no what's next. Just silence. And in that silence, I found something the noise of success could never give me peace. And that peace didn't come from the world around me. It came from the world within me. You see, the mind is like water. When it's turbulent, you can't see your reflection. But when it's calm, clarity appears. The challenge today is not that people don't have peace. It's that they don't pause long enough to experience it. We keep wondering, what's next? What's missing? What's wrong? But very few stop and ask, what's present? What's peaceful? What's already enough? So today, let's go on a small journey together. A journey from noise to silence, from restlessness to stillness, and from outer progress to inner peace. Because, my dear friends, being still is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the most important thing, reconnecting with your inner self and with the divine presence that breathes through you. By the end of this speech, I promise, you won't just understand peace, you'll feel it. Because peace is not a luxury of the fortunate, it is the birthright of the mindful. So take a deep breath, let the noise settle, and let's begin this beautiful conversation. Be still, find peace, days forever wondering. When life becomes noisy, our minds begin to lose their balance. We start chasing moments instead of experiencing them. The constant hum of our phones, the rush of our schedules, the endless comparison of where others are. All these things drown the very essence of who we are. Have you ever tried to listen to a soft song while standing in a crowded marketplace? No matter how beautiful the melody is, the noise will overpower it. In the same way, the voice of our inner peace is always there, but it gets lost under the weight of our daily chaos. We think peace is something to be found in a vacation, in the right company, or in a moment when everything finally settles down. But peace does not come from absence of problems. It comes from presence of stillness within. Imagine waking up one morning and before touching your phone, you simply sit quietly for 2 minutes. At first, your mind will resist. It will pull you towards what you need to do, who you need to text, what you might be missing online. But if you breathe deeply and wait, something magical happens. The noise slowly fades, and your own awareness begins to whisper. You start noticing the morning light, the coolness of the air, the rhythm of your breathing. These are not new things. They were always there, but you were never still enough to feel them. That is the power of stillness. It doesn't bring new experiences into your life. It awakens you to the beauty of what's already here. In our pursuit of progress, we've mistaken activity for growth. We keep moving faster, not realizing that we are spinning in circles. The modern world teaches us that if we are not busy, we are not valuable. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you sat without doing anything and still felt content? True peace is not found in the speed of your achievements, but in the depth of your awareness. You might complete 100 tasks in a day, but if your heart is restless, you will still feel incomplete. And yet, you can do just one thing with calm presence, and it will fill you with quiet satisfaction. There was once a man who loved to sit by a park bench every evening after work. He watched people rushing home, children playing, dogs running around. One day his colleague asked him, "Why do you waste your time sitting here when you could go home and rest?" The man smiled and said, "I am resting here. My body works all day, my mind runs all day. This is the only time I let both of them stop." His colleague didn't understand it at first, but weeks later, when stress overtook him, he too sat on that bench, and for the first time, he heard the sound of the wind and the laughter of the children. That simple pause became his daily peace ritual. Stillness is not about sitting in meditation for hours or isolating yourself from the world. It's about learning to pause within the movement of life. You can be walking and still be still. You can be talking and still be calm. You can be surrounded by people and yet be deeply connected to your center. It's the art of being rooted, even as the winds of the world blow. Have you noticed how a tree stands still no matter how much the leaves move? The branches may sway, but the roots remain anchored. That's how life should be lived. Active on the outside, anchored on the inside. Every day gives us countless opportunities to practice this. When someone speaks harshly to you, instead of reacting, take one silent breath. When your work piles up, instead of panicking, close your eyes for 10 seconds and return to your inner rhythm. When you feel left behind in life, remind yourself that everything unfolds in divine timing and peace is not postponed for tomorrow. It is to be experienced now. The practice of stillness transforms your relationship with life. You start responding instead of reacting, understanding instead of assuming, appreciating instead of complaining. The truth is, silence is not empty. It is full of answers. It is in silence that creativity is born, clarity is found, and the divine voice becomes audible. Many of us are afraid of silence because it reveals what we have been avoiding. But facing that silence is the first step to freedom. When you learn to sit quietly with your thoughts without judging them, you begin to see that they are just visitors passing through your mind. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. So, my friends, if you want to find peace, do not go searching for it outside. Learn to pause, learn to listen, learn to be still even in the busiest moments. Just like a lake reflects the sky only when it's calm, your soul reflects the presence of the divine only when you are still. The world will keep moving, responsibilities will keep growing, and the noise will always try to return. But now you know, peace doesn't disappear when noise appears, it only waits for you to remember it again. Every deep breath, every mindful pause, every silent prayer is a doorway back to that peace. There is a quiet power in slowing down. In a world where everyone seems to be running, the one who walks with awareness often reaches further. We have been taught that faster is better. Faster success, faster responses, faster results. But very few realize that speed without direction is the greatest waste of life. We move quickly, yet we feel we are going nowhere. We talk more, yet communicate less. We achieve more, yet enjoy less. Why? Because our actions are disconnected from our inner rhythm. Stillness teaches us that sometimes slowing down is not losing pace, it is regaining presence. Think of a musician. When he plays too fast, the beauty of the notes is lost. The pauses, the silences between the beats, are what give the music its soul. In the same way, our lives lose harmony when we forget to pause. We rush through meals without tasting them. We listen to people without hearing them. We live days without really living them. The mind becomes like a fan spinning uncontrollably, always on, never resting, and yet never cooling us down. But the moment we slow down, life begins to breathe again. The taste of food returns, the warmth of connection revives, and our own thoughts become clearer. Have you ever noticed how nature never rushes, yet everything gets done? The sun rises, the flowers bloom, the rain falls, and life unfolds, all in perfect timing. The tree doesn't grow by force, it grows by surrender. It allows the seasons to shape it, the sun to nourish it, and the wind to test its strength. If nature can trust its own timing, why can't we? Our impatience is often the root of our inner unrest. We want everything immediately. Success now, answers now, peace now. But the greatest things in life don't arrive when you rush, they arrive when you are ready. A young man once planted a small bamboo seed. Every day he watered it faithfully, but weeks passed and nothing appeared above the ground. Months turned into years, and still there was no visible growth. People laughed at him, saying he was wasting his time. But he continued watering patiently. Then, in the 5th year, within weeks, the bamboo suddenly shot up over 80 feet tall. What had the plant been doing for 5 years? Growing roots. Deep, strong roots that could support its height. Life is just like that. Sometimes when nothing seems to be happening, everything is happening within. Stillness and patience are the soil where greatness grows. Yet, in our everyday lives, we often measure progress only by movement. If the day feels busy, we call it productive. But activity is not always accomplishment. The busiest days can be the most directionless. There are people who run all day and reach nowhere, and there are others who move gently, thoughtfully, and arrive exactly where they are meant to be. Slowing down allows you to see what really matters. You begin to recognize that some paths are not worth walking, some conversations are not worth continuing, and some battles are not worth fighting. Consider a potter shaping clay on a wheel. If he spins it too fast, the pot will collapse. He must find the right balance, movement, but mindful movement. The same applies to life. We need activity, yes, but balanced with awareness. We must work hard, but not in haste, because haste steals joy. When you slow down, you begin to taste life again. You see the smile of a stranger, the softness of the evening light, the beauty in ordinary things. These simple joys are the roots of peace, but they remain invisible to the restless mind. Stillness also reveals truth. When we pause, we can finally hear what our heart is trying to say. Many people make big decisions in moments of rush, ending relationships, changing jobs, or speaking words they later regret. But stillness gives perspective. It allows us to respond instead of react. Before reacting to an argument, pause and breathe. Before giving up on your dream, pause and reflect. Before judging someone, pause and understand. Every pause saves you from unnecessary pain and creates space for wisdom to enter. Think of the ocean. On the surface, waves crash and roar, but deep below, it is perfectly calm. When you live from the surface of life, reacting to every challenge, comparing, competing, proving, you live in turbulence. But when you slow down and live from depth, the outer chaos cannot disturb your inner calm. Slowing down is not laziness, it is maturity. It is realizing that peace and productivity are not enemies, they are partners. The calmer you are, the clearer you think. The clearer you think, the wiser you act. There is a beautiful line that says, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." We too can live like that. When you slow down, your connection with the divine deepens. You begin to see that every moment has a rhythm, a divine order. You stop chasing and you start trusting. You stop forcing and you start flowing. And in that flow, life becomes lighter, not because problems disappear, but because your perspective changes. So the next time you feel the world pushing you to rush, pause. Take a deep breath and remind yourself, I am not behind. I am exactly where I need to be. Let silence be your teacher and patience your strength. Move gently with grace, not with greed. Because when you slow down, you don't fall behind in life, you finally catch up with yourself. And when you catch up with yourself, you find something the fast paced world has long forgotten: peace that does not depend on circumstances, joy that does not depend on achievement, and wisdom that only stillness can reveal. Peace begins when we stop fighting with life and start flowing with it. So often, we create our own storms by trying to control everything around us: people, outcomes, situations, even the timing of our blessings. We struggle to accept what is, thinking that resistance will somehow change reality. But the truth is, resistance only drains us, acceptance transforms us. Stillness is not just about sitting quietly, it's about being calm enough to say, this moment is what it is, and I will make peace with it. Acceptance is the gateway to peace, and peace is the home of the soul. Every day, life presents us with situations that test our patience. Someone speaks harshly, a plan falls apart, an unexpected obstacle appears. Our natural instinct is to push back, to argue with reality. But think for a moment: has resisting ever made pain lighter? Has anger ever made disappointment smaller? The more we fight with what already is, the heavier it becomes. Acceptance does not mean weakness, it means wisdom. It is the awareness that while we may not control the situation, we always control our response. Imagine sitting in traffic when you're already late. You honk, sigh, and check the clock every minute, as if your frustration could magically clear the road. But what happens? The traffic remains the same, only your peace disappears. Now imagine the same scene, but this time you take a deep breath, play some calming music, and tell yourself, I can't move faster than the road allows. Let me make peace with the pause. The difference is not in the situation, but in your state of mind. Acceptance does not remove the delay, but it removes the suffering attached to it. We often confuse acceptance with giving up. But acceptance is not surrender to failure, it's alignment with truth. It's saying, this is happening, and I choose to respond with grace. There's a story of a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors said, what bad luck? The farmer replied, maybe. A week later, the horse returned with 2 more wild horses. The neighbors said, what good luck? The farmer again said, maybe. Soon after, his son broke his leg while trying to tame one of the horses. The neighbors cried, what terrible luck? The farmer said, maybe. A few days later, the army came to recruit young men for war, but his son was spared because of the injury. What appeared to be misfortune turned into a blessing. The farmer's peace came from one simple thing: acceptance. He didn't label life as good or bad, he just trusted its unfolding. When we practice acceptance, we begin to see that not everything that happens to us is meant to break us. Some things are meant to build us quietly, even if they arrive in the disguise of difficulty. Think about the times you've gone through something painful: a broken relationship, a lost opportunity, a failure. In those moments, you may have felt it was the end, but years later, you realized it was a redirection, not a rejection. The pain was not punishment, it was preparation. The storm didn't come to destroy you, it came to clear your path. But only when the mind is still can you see this truth. Acceptance also deepens compassion. When you accept your own flaws, you become gentler with others. You stop expecting perfection from yourself or anyone else. You start realizing that everyone is fighting unseen battles. A calm heart doesn't judge, it understands. A still mind doesn't react, it reflects. When you stop fighting with life, you stop fighting with people too. You begin to listen more, empathize more, and forgive more. You see the divine hand even in human imperfections. There's a beautiful practice that can help in daily life. Whenever something unpleasant happens, instead of saying, "Why me?" say, "What can I learn from this?" This single shift changes resistance into reflection. It changes pain into purpose. Acceptance doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care enough to face reality with maturity. Sometimes life doesn't go your way because it's leading you towards something far better, something you can't yet see. Have you ever tried holding a rope tightly while it's being pulled from the other side? The harder you grip, the more it burns your hands. But the moment you let go, the pain stops. That's what happens when we cling to things beyond our control. We suffer unnecessarily. Letting go is not losing, it's healing. It's trusting that life has its own intelligence. The river doesn't resist the rocks in its way. It flows around them, creating beauty in the process. That's what acceptance does. It turns obstacles into flow and flow into peace. In stillness, acceptance becomes natural. You realize that peace is not found in controlling life, but in cooperating with it. You begin to see that life is not against you, it's guiding you. Every delay, every detour, every challenge carries a hidden message from the divine, asking you to trust, to grow, to let go. And when you accept that message, something beautiful happens. Your heart becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, and your life becomes more peaceful. So, the next time life doesn't go as planned, pause before you react. Take a deep breath and remind yourself, this too has a purpose. Even when you don't understand the reason, trust the rhythm. Even when it hurts, choose grace. Even when it's uncertain, choose faith. Because acceptance is not the end of effort, it's the beginning of inner peace. And when you stop fighting with life, you realize life was never your enemy. It was your greatest teacher, waiting for you to be still enough to listen. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and recognized, silence often feels like a weakness. But silence is not the absence of strength. It is its highest expression. When you are truly peaceful inside, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to argue. You don't need to compete. You don't need to shout louder to be understood. Silence becomes your response, and in that silence, your presence begins to speak more powerfully than words ever could. The ability to remain silent when everything around you is noisy is one of the rarest forms of wisdom. It takes courage to stay calm when others are losing control, and it takes spiritual maturity to hold peace when the world tries to provoke you. Every day we are surrounded by situations that invite us to react. Someone criticizes you unjustly, a friend misunderstands you, a colleague disrespects your effort. The immediate impulse is to respond, to defend, to explain. But often, in the rush to be right, we lose our peace. And what is the point of winning an argument if you lose your inner calm? Silence doesn't mean you agree, it means you have risen above the need to participate in unnecessary noise. It means you value peace more than your ego's need to be right. Imagine a clear glass of water. When it's shaken, the dirt inside swirls and clouds the clarity. But when it's left still, the dirt settles to the bottom and the water becomes transparent again. Our minds are like that. Every time we react impulsively, we shake our inner peace and our clarity disappears. But if we stay silent, even for a few moments, The mind settles and wisdom surfaces. That pause, that silence becomes our strength. There was once a monk walking with his disciples when they came across a woman shouting angrily at her husband in the market. The disciples stopped and whispered, "Master, why do people shout when they are angry?" The monk smiled and said, "When people are angry, their hearts grow distant. To reach each other across that distance, they must shout." One disciple asked, "So what should we do when we're angry?" The monk replied gently, "Speak softly, or stay silent until your heart comes closer again." That is the beauty of silence. It bridges the distance that anger creates. Silence has the power to heal relationships. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding conflict. When you stop interrupting, you start understanding. Sometimes saying nothing is the most compassionate response you can give. It allows space for truth to emerge on its own. In many situations, people are not looking for you to fix their problems, they just want to be heard. Silence is not withdrawal, it's presence without interference. It's listening with your heart rather than your mouth. In daily life, this can be practiced in simple moments. When you're about to send a message out of anger, pause. When you feel the urge to prove your point, breathe. When someone offends you, smile silently instead of reacting. This does not make you weak, it makes you wise. The wise don't waste energy on every disturbance, they conserve it for what truly matters. Like an ocean that remains deep even when waves dance on its surface, they stay calm beneath the noise. Have you ever noticed that after a heated argument, silence eventually brings peace? Words can wound, but silence can heal. When we choose silence over reaction, we choose peace over pride. Life will constantly test you through people, through situations, through unexpected challenges. And your greatest test will be, can you remain calm in chaos? Can you let your peace speak louder than your frustration? When you master this, you no longer get disturbed easily because you understand that not every battle deserves your energy. There is a certain kind of silence that is heavy, filled with resentment or suppression. That's not the silence of peace. True silence is alive, aware, and compassionate. It doesn't come from fear, but from understanding. It's when you know that reacting will only add to the pain, so you choose stillness instead. You choose to step back, breathe, and let time and truth do their work. There's immense dignity in this kind of silence. It protects your energy and preserves your inner harmony. Consider nature. Have you ever sat beneath a tree and just listened? The tree never speaks, yet it teaches more about patience and strength than any words could. The mountain stands in majestic silence, yet its stillness inspires awe. The sky doesn't shout when it rains, it simply lets go. The sun rises each day without announcement, yet its presence transforms the world. Silence is the language of the divine, and when we learn to be silent within, we begin to communicate with life on a deeper level. In your moments of silence, you start hearing what the noise of the world keeps you from hearing. Your own intuition, your conscience, your connection with the sacred. That inner voice, which is drowned by outer chaos, becomes clear in the stillness. And that voice never misguides you. It tells you when to speak, when to act, and when to simply be. When silence becomes your companion, peace becomes your nature. So, whenever life tempts you to react, choose to respond with silence first. When someone speaks negativity, let your silence remind them that not every word deserves an echo. When the world pushes you to shout to be noticed, let your calm presence do the talking. Because the one who is peaceful from within doesn't need to raise their voice. Their energy speaks for them. Silence is not emptiness, it's fullness in its purest form. It's where wisdom blooms, where love deepens, and where you meet your truest self. And in that sacred silence, you realize that peace was never something to be found, it was something to be remembered.